All right, so we're going to go over the Fall 2019 final WWPD. The way I like to do these is I kind of just do the stuff on the left, make a little environment diagram, and then fill in the actual questions that they're asking. So let's do that. So what we're going to do is define some function again. So the name again in the global frame is going to point to this function. And then we're going to define a variable n, which is the sum of calling again on all of these z. So on z in range 9. So that means it's going to call it on z from 0 through 8. So let's call it on 0 and see what happens. So again on 0, would say x equals 0, and it's going to return again of x. So this is going to check the inner again now, because in this frame, again is bound to this orange again. So let's make that orange as well. And what that does is it sets x to non-local. So it's going to be changing this outer x here. It sets it to x minus y. So in this case, y is just 0, so x remains 0. And then it returns it. So this just evaluates 0, and this x is 0 as well. Okay, so for 0, we just get a 0. Let's try it for 1. So for 1, we just have this x equals 1 passed in. And then we call again the inner again on 1. And we say non-local x. And x is equal to x minus y. So x minus y is now 1 minus 1, because y is also 1. So x then becomes 0. And this just becomes 0 plus 0. So remember, you would only, this x gets rebound, and so that's why it's going to be 0. So this is going to be a list with all zeros, since every time you just assign this x value to 0, and you always return 0. So n is just going to be 0. So now S is a list comprehension, which creates a list with I for I in range 1, 2, 3. So S is a list, and each element of that list is a list that contains I. So I is going to be 0, then 1, and then 2. Okay, and then we do s.append s, which means we create another box in S, and that box points to the front. Because append, it always only adds one element, and then the element that it adds is the parameter. Okay, and then for t in list of S, t.extend range 3, 5. Okay, so what we'll do is first call list on S, and calling list on S basically just means create a copy of S, a shallow copy. So let's create that copy right here. It's going to have 3 boxes, and then the first box, 4 boxes, sorry. First box will point to the 0, second box will point to the 1, third box will point to the 2, and the last box will point to just the list. So what we're doing here is we're copying the arrows from each box into this copy list that we made. So this represents list of S. Now we say t.extend by range 3, 5. So range 3, 5 will contain the numbers 3 and 4. So we extend each of these with the numbers 3 and 4. So this is getting quite messy. I did not anticipate there would be this much. I'm going to draw my list vertically. Sorry, guys. So this will be 0, 3, 4, and 1, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. And then finally the last thing in S is just this, the entire list. So that'll also be extended by 3 and 4. All right. So now we make 2 classes, class A, class B, and then we make 2 functions, f and g. Let's come back to that after we do some of the intro, the first ones. So the first thing is just printing list1.append2. So in this case, append always returns none, so we don't even need to execute this, but if you wanted to, you'd have some list with 1, you append a 2 to it, and then nothing points to it, so it's just erased from memory. And this will just print none. N, as we said, was 0. The length of S is now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. S of 1 is a list with 1, 3, 4. I just saw that right here in my orange arrow. All right,